He is from South Africa, and he's cosplaying as this great American leader in a room that has the portraits of some of the greatest men that ever led this country. And he has the audacity to act like he is an elected official. I am an elected official. I am the important one in this situation, not him. So if he wants to tank the economy and his cars, maybe that's what he deserves. Everything that he's doing is getting criticized in the media, and he says that he's helping, and he's not. He's making us look bad. He's making me look bad.
Apparently, Elon Musk has been crying in the White House, which might explain why Trump staged that impromptu Tesla ad on the White House lawn. For all his bravado, Musk is reportedly an incredibly emotional guy. Yet ironically, his lack of empathy for others is now coming full circle, because no one is showing him any. As Tesla's stock crumbles and sales plummet, people aren't just watching the collapse unfold, they're actively accelerating it. Investors are dumping Tesla shares, buyers are turning their backs on his vehicles, and the very foundation of his wealth, his over-leveraged stock holdings, is eroding beneath him. The Tesla debacle has reached biblical proportions. It's as if the powers that be are conspiring to make it illegal to purchase any vehicle not emblazoned with the Tesla logo. Historians will dissect this era for decades, unraveling how society became ensnared in the cult of Musk. In the grand theater of American capitalism, few figures loom larger than Elon Musk. Once celebrated as a visionary genius, promising to save humanity with electric cars, space exploration, and brain-computer interfaces, Musk has increasingly come under scrutiny for his erratic behavior, questionable business practices, and the unraveling state of Tesla, the crown jewel of his empire. As the American economy teeters on the brink of instability due to inflation, trade wars, and corporate greed, Musk's story is emblematic of how billionaire excess can destabilize industries while leaving ordinary citizens to bear the brunt of their mismanagement. Tesla once stood as the beacon of innovation in sustainable energy, but today its future looks far less certain. The company's stock price, a key pillar of Musk's wealth, is now caught in a volatile storm, driven by waning consumer confidence, political polarization, and shifting market dynamics. Early adopters of Tesla vehicles were largely environmentally conscious consumers who believed in Musk's promise of revolutionizing transportation. However, recent years have seen these loyal customers lose faith. Environmentalists accuse Tesla of abandoning green initiatives in favor of profit margins, particularly after Musk moved production facilities from California to Texas, where regulations are laxer. His alliance with right-wing politicians and embrace of anti-environmental rhetoric further alienated this core demographic. For years, Tesla thrived on hype, self-driving technology that never fully materialized, exaggerated claims about battery efficiency, and overpriced cybertrucks with safety ratings comparable to the infamous Ford Pinto. When the novelty wore off, so did sales. Without true technological breakthroughs to back up his promises, Musk's empire began to crumble. Meanwhile, competitors like Ford and GM stepped into the EV market, offering cheaper, more reliable alternatives that appealed to mainstream buyers. Musk's personal wealth and much of Tesla's valuation is built on fragile foundations. Nearly all of his liquidity comes from loans leveraged against Tesla stock, which itself is inflated by speculative trading rather than tangible performance metrics. This precarious arrangement leaves both Musk and Tesla vulnerable to market downturns. Recent reports indicate that Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick urged investors to buy Tesla shares, while Minnesota Governor Tim Walz mocked the declining value of the company, underscoring just how politicized Tesla's fate has become. Musk's reputation has taken a nosedive amid controversies ranging from baseless accusations, such as linking vandalism to trans violence, to outright threats of litigation against critics like former Representative Jamal Bowman, whom he labeled a Nazi and a thief. These actions not only damage his credibility, but also expose the fragility of his public image. While Tesla struggles to maintain its footing, the broader American economy faces mounting challenges exacerbated by billionaires like Musk and politicians like Donald Trump. Together, they represent a class of elites who prioritize self interest over collective well being, creating ripple effects that destabilize entire sectors. Donald Trump's return to prominence brings with it a resurgence of protectionist policies, including indiscriminate tariffs aimed at China and other nations. While marketed as measures to protect American jobs, these tariffs ultimately hurt domestic businesses and consumers alike. Higher prices at the checkout counter burden working class families, while corporations exploit loopholes to avoid accountability. Musk, too, benefits from favorable treatment abroad, receiving billions in subsidies from governments in Canada, Europe, and the US, even as taxpayers struggle to access basic necessities like healthcare and education. Despite Musk's portrayal of himself as a self-made entrepreneur, Tesla and SpaceX have collectively received nearly $20 billion in taxpayer-funded subsidies and grants. Yet when it comes to funding social programs like student debt relief or universal health care, lawmakers balk at the cost. This stark disparity highlights the systemic inequality embedded in the American economic model, one that prioritizes corporate welfare over human welfare. The ideological divide fueling America's economic woes cannot be ignored. Half the country supports figures like Musk and Trump, hoping to return to an era of unchecked capitalism and cultural dominance. The other half recognizes the dangers posed by such ideologies, advocating instead for policies that address climate change, income inequality, and social justice. Until this rift is bridged, meaningful progress remains elusive. Elon Musk's descent from tech messiah to embattled CEO mirrors the broader collapse of trust in billionaire-led solutions to societal problems. Like Trump before him, Musk mistook spectacle for substance, leveraging chaos and controversy to maintain relevance. But as Tesla falters and the American economy buckles under the weight of unsustainable practices, the cracks in this illusion become impossible to ignore. Ultimately, the lesson is clear. Billionaires do not seek enlightenment. They seek control. And when their empires crumble, as Tesla seems destined to do, the fallout lands squarely on the shoulders of those least equipped to handle it. Whether through environmental degradation, financial instability, or social unrest, the consequences of their actions will shape the trajectory of America for generations to come. Will we learn from this reckoning, or will history repeat itself, allowing another illusionist to rise from the ashes? Only time will tell. In the grand theater of modern capitalism, few figures loom larger than Elon Musk. Once hailed as a visionary genius, a man who promised to revolutionize transportation with Tesla, conquer space with SpaceX, and merge human brains with computers through Neuralink, Musk has become emblematic of both the promises and perils of unchecked billionaire power. His rise mirrors the trajectory of other titans of industry throughout history, from Andrew Carnegie to John D. Rockefeller, whose innovations reshaped economies but also entrenched inequalities that persist to this day. But Musk's story is unfolding at a unique moment in history, one defined by geopolitical tensions, environmental crises, and an economy increasingly driven by speculation rather than tangible value. As Tesla's stock crumbles and its once loyal customer base erodes, Musk's empire serves as a microcosm of how individual ambition intersects with systemic flaws in our financial systems, government policies, and societal values. To understand Musk's downfall or potential collapse, we must first examine the foundations of modern capitalism, the system under which he operates. Central banks, fiat currency, and fractional reserve banking have created a world where wealth can be generated or destroyed, with little connection to physical goods or services. When Richard Nixon severed the US dollar's ties to gold in 1971, he effectively ushered in an era of floating exchange rates and unlimited money creation. This decision allowed central banks like the Federal Reserve to print money without constraint, fueling decades of unprecedented growth, but also debt. Today, billionaires like Musk operate in a financial ecosystem where asset prices are often inflated by speculation rather than real performance metrics. Tesla's valuation, for instance, was never based solely on its earnings or production capabilities. Instead, investors bet on Musk's vision and the idea that electric vehicles would dominate the future market. When reality fails to meet these lofty expectations, as it seems to be doing now, the entire house of cards begins to wobble. This phenomenon isn't new. Throughout history, speculative bubbles have formed around everything from tulips in 17th century Holland to dot-com startups in the late 1990s. What makes Tesla's case particularly interesting is its intersection with geopolitics, climate change, and shifting consumer behavior, all factors that complicate the picture further. Elon Musk's troubles cannot be separated from the larger geopolitical chessboard on which America plays. For decades, the United States has positioned itself as the leader of the free world, using institutions like NATO, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund to maintain global influence. However, China's rapid ascent has challenged this dominance, leading to escalating trade wars and technological competition. Musk's companies benefit immensely from globalization. Tesla relies on supply chains stretching across continents, while SpaceX secures lucrative contracts with NASA and the Pentagon. Yet, Musk himself has courted controversy by aligning with right-wing politicians and advocating for deregulation, even as his businesses receive billions in taxpayer subsidies. This contradiction highlights a fundamental tension in American capitalism, the coexistence of free market rhetoric with corporate welfare. Meanwhile, China's state-driven model offers a stark contrast. Companies like BYD and NIO are rapidly gaining ground in the EV market, thanks to government support and lower production costs. While Musk once dismissed Chinese competitors, they now threaten Tesla's dominance, not only in Asia but globally. This rivalry reflects broader tensions between Western liberalism and Eastern authoritarianism, with far-reaching consequences for technology, energy, and security. Tesla's early success rested on its promise to combat climate change by accelerating the transition to sustainable energy. But as the company grew, so did criticisms of its practices. Moving production facilities from California to Texas allowed Tesla to avoid stricter environmental regulations, raising questions about whether profit had overtaken purpose. Moreover, the shift toward electric vehicles doesn't solve all environmental problems. Mining lithium, cobalt, and nickel for batteries devastates ecosystems and exploits workers, particularly in developing countries. Meanwhile, wealthy nations like the US continue to prioritize private car ownership over public transportation, a policy choice rooted in mid-20th century decisions to dismantle streetcar networks in favor of highways. Here again, Musk's story illustrates a paradox. Innovations intended to improve the planet often exacerbate existing inequalities. Just as the Panama Canal reshaped global trade routes but displaced indigenous communities, so too does the EV revolution risk widening the gap between rich and poor. History teaches us that empires, whether Roman, British, or corporate, are fragile constructs. They rise on the strength of innovation, military might, or financial prowess, but fall when their foundations weaken. For Tesla, the cracks are beginning to show. Consumer confidence is waning as competitors like Ford and GM offer cheaper, more reliable alternatives. Political polarization has turned Musk into a divisive figure, alienating segments of his audience. His reliance on leveraged stock holdings also leaves him vulnerable to market downturns. Similarly, the American economy faces mounting challenges: inflation, trade imbalances, and growing inequality. Billionaires like Musk embody these contradictions, benefiting from a system that prioritizes shareholder returns over worker welfare and short-term gains over long-term sustainability. Yet, history suggests that crises often precede transformation. After World War II, the Bretton Woods Agreement established a new international monetary order. Following the Cold War, globalization reshaped trade and diplomacy. Perhaps Musk's struggles signal the end of one era and the beginning of another, one where humanity rethinks its relationship with technology, capitalism, and the planet. Will we learn from Elon Musk's reckoning, or will history repeat itself, allowing another illusionist to rise from the ashes? The answer depends on whether we recognize the deeper forces at play. Musk's downfall isn't just about one man or one company, it's about the systems that enabled his rise and eventual fall. From the creation of central banks to the geopolitics of the 21st century, these forces shape our lives in ways both visible and invisible. As viewers, we're left with a choice: accept the status quo or demand change. Ultimately, the question isn't whether Tesla survives, it's whether we can build a future where progress benefits everyone, not just those at the top.